Hi, everyone. Welcome to another week of YHB TV, your Handmade Business Television, a weekly series dedicated to helping you navigate all things maker life. I am Sharon Fain, along with Isaac Watson, my partner in business.
That's me.
And we are the directors of Academy of Handmade. Supportive community for makers with resources and help for whatever's going on in your business. So each week we tackle a topic that we think gets deeper into what's really going on in your business. And we're excited because this week we are talking about a hot button issue, discounts. And I feel like there's a lot of different advice when it comes to discounts for makers, and it can be a little bit tricky to navigate. So our poll is, which is right below here where it says poll. If you click on that, it's how often do you discount your products? And only to clear out inventory regularly, usually seasonal, regularly several times a year, monthly. And then never are the options. If there's another option that we're missing, we try to cover it all. Put it in the chat as well too. So, and while you're in the chat, say hello, introduce yourself. We'd love to know if you're here.
Exactly. While people are trickling in, we want to mention that this episode of Your Handmade Business Television is brought to you by our upcoming Maker Mastermind program, which starts next week.
Yay!
Your friends are great, but let's face it, they don't always get what you do as a handmade business owner. And Google is great, but it's hard to ask Google for more complex and advanced questions. And of course, education is great, but it's often one size fits all and doesn't necessarily address the issues you are going through as a maker business owner. So the Maker Mastermind program that we put together is designed to connect you with other makers that are looking to take their businesses to the next level. As you work closely with a small group of maker peers, we will guide you through 5 weeks of topics and coursework. That's Sharon and I guiding you. We will be holding your hands along the way and facilitating things. And you will also be able to get questions answered and explore some more advanced topics in depth during our 2-day virtual conference, which is going to be amazing. So we are really excited for that. If you would like to learn more, click that green button below our video that says Maker Mastermind, or you can visit academyofhandmade.com/mastermind. And if you want to go a little more in depth with us about what the program entails, check out last week's YHB TV episode. You can just click on the schedule button when we're done here today and go to the first session in this series of YHB TV episodes and learn more about it. So, like I said, it starts next week, which means registration ends on Friday. So don't delay.
Yes. All right, let's get into it, guys. Discounts. So first we wanted to clear up some things. I think that as we mentioned in our email that we sent out today, that discounts are pretty hotly contested, I think, and there's a lot of, there's a lot of feelings that come up with discounts. And I think one of the things that's good to say first off is that, yes, there is a problem of people over discounting handmade items, and they're starting off too cheap to begin with. So yes, that's a problem. But that said, we should still look at discounts as a business, as a totally legit business strategy, which a lot of like businesses from very high end retailers like Nordstrom all the way down to, like Sears and JCPenney use. Maybe those aren't the best right now because they're going out of business. But like Target, let's go with Target. Target's doing great. Target has discounts. IKEA has discounts. There's lots of places that do discounts, or, probably whatever, your Kroger or whatever that you go to. There's coupons, things like that. So there's lots of different business models and ways to use discounts, and discounts are okay to use. But because discounts speak to brand and they speak to lots of other things in value and kind of who your customer is, there's so much that can vary in terms of if you should discount or not, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely think that if you are going to make a decision to discount your items, and I would say that most of you probably will at some point, it should definitely be something that you do on your own terms. Do not feel pressured into discounting. Do not feel like everybody else is doing it, so you have to do it too. Make sure that you understand what a discount means for your business and what it means for your profit margins, and make sure you're going into it with eyes wide open so that you can do so confidently and without losing a ton of money.
Amen. Amen. Like the understanding of why you're doing something and having everything figured out and knowing how much money you'll make if you sell X amount or whatever, that like, the projections within a discount, like that's, and that you've gotten your pricing together to know what your wiggle room is on stuff, like that is super key. So, I mean, yeah, know why you're doing it, know if you can do it, know how much it's gonna affect you. So let's talk about the different kinds of discounts and like why you might run a sale. And so I think specifically this is more like talking about sales type things, right? Like, running coupons for stuff, running sales, all of that. So why would you discount or have a sale? It's to get rid of inventory. There could be special occasions, a lot of times like an anniversary in a business, or there is something that's happening that you're wanting to respond to, those sorts of things. Part of your content calendar. So it's like it's intentionally planned. So you maybe you run a business where like wedding season and Mother's Day are when you always do your discounts. And so you've lined out the year of like, okay, I'm going to run this kind of sale and run it this way. And then I do another kind of sale during this time and run it that way. So, I know my friend Lizzie with Forgotten Cotton, she was on State of Making. They really only run 2 sales a year. And one is they do a sale right before the holidays. I think it's right before, it might be right after. But the other one they do. So there's like a holiday-esque sale happening at some point. And then they run a Christmas in July sale, I believe. Oh yeah, that's what it is. They do Christmas in July and they do a Super Bowl sale. And it's like a Super Bowl halftime sale. And so it's like planned out, right? And then like their customers know like this is when it happens. Yeah. And so there's 2 kinds of sales that they do there. I know that they will run specials and stuff at the holidays too, I believe. But yeah, those are the two that they do. So it's like, this is right. Like it's intentionally planned. They know, they look at their year and they're like, okay, this is when we do our sales. And you can, plan your content and your email sequences and your social media accordingly. And then lastly is that your pricing behavior conditions your customers. So it might be that they're hoarding coupons or expecting a sale. So when you're doling that out, it can sometimes just be a reaction to customers' expectations for that, which obviously it's probably not the best way to do that, but that is why people would have a sale.
Yeah. I wanted to call out what Jennifer said in the chat, which is actually a great point and something we didn't think of, Sharon, is that she makes calendars and she only discounts them after the beginning of the year, which makes sense. It's very common for anybody who makes calendars. So I think there's another perfect opportunity there to have a sale, which is if your products are time sensitive or season specific, and then suddenly that season or that time has passed, it makes sense to discount then. So that's a great, thank you for including that, Jennifer. So yeah, I think speaking of behavior and training your customers, I think that's definitely something that we want to be very conscious of, especially as maker business owners, because we do not have the massive profit margins and flexibility of inventory to do what a big box retailer does and just put things on sale all the time. We're not buying in bulk. We're not buying, massive quantities of stuff or producing massive quantities of stuff. So we need to be really careful about what we are conditioning our customers to do. And in some cases, breaking them from some of the habits and behaviors that they're used to with big box retailers. And I know we talked about this a little bit on State of Making, I think, but anybody who's ever shopped at Bed Bath & Beyond knows that like hoarding coupons is like the thing you do, right? You save up the circular coupons. They don't technically expire. And so you like use a bunch of them at once and you get 20% off your entire purchase in the process. Well, we don't want customers to come to our maker businesses and expect the same thing. So just being very intentional and very cautious about our discounting is going to be a really important way to control that and to set people's expectations appropriately.
Yeah. So I love that Amanda Siska in the chat said that that her discounts only started to come after she increased her prices dramatically. And she said it's helping increase order size though. So she says it's working. So she mentioned in the chat that her discounts, the only discount she really offers in her store, like in terms of like a coupon or whatever, I'm sure you probably run sales now and then, is that it's order quantity, right? If you get to 4, you get a certain discount, you get to 8, you get a certain discount, et cetera, et cetera. And she makes very heavy items. So this kind of makes a lot of sense as well too. And I think that's like a really good, that's, when you think about discounts, like how it's going to impact and condition your customer, like that's part of it. So that makes so much sense because you're saying, all right, you're already in here. Why don't you buy more? So really what you're trying to do is like convert somebody who's already on board, right? Like they're already buying one thing. So why not buy 2 or 3 or 4, whatever. So I think that is the kind of discount that's great because you are not having to convince someone extra, like, right? You're not just like randomly giving everyone 25% off. You're giving somebody who already really likes you and is going to probably go in anyways and is now like, okay, I'll go in farther, right? And that's something when you think about is probably you're creating that customer loyalty, you're increasing order sizes, and in some ways you're probably increasing less work for yourself, right? Like more stuff in one order is, depending on what you make, but is usually less work than, a ton of little orders, right? Like you're wanting those bigger orders. So I think that's a really good point.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the other types of discounts that you might offer. And there's a category of discount that we would call problem-solving discounts. So if you're getting into a customer service situation where something doesn't arrive as expected, or it's the wrong color, or whatever it is, you may want to do a partial refund as a way of post-discounting a product to make a customer happy. And I would say do that with scrutiny and hesitance, because again, you don't want to condition your customers into thinking that every time a product arrives, they can complain about it and get a discount for it.
And I would say like, because I've worked with like restaurants and stuff, and I think I feel like restaurant owners sometimes can be weird about giving discounts to people who complain. But I think most of the time people are not abusing that system. Mm-hmm. Like most of the time people really only complain if they're super bummed out on something. And like, and especially like, keep doing this example, like you can usually tell the degree of bummed out or upset the mistake has caused, right? Like there's a difference between like, we messed up your order in the kitchen, it came out late, food was still really great, and so it's like, here's a free dessert on us or whatever. And then there's shards of glass in my mashed potatoes. Like that's, take that item off the list. Maybe here, have a, have some gift cards on us. Like there's different degrees, obviously, of like if something didn't arrive on time and like, oh, sorry about that. Like, we don't control the post office and whatever, but maybe it was your bad too or something, that, you offer a discount in your store versus, you need to fully refund something because of, I don't know, whatever it was. It was a totally defective item.
For sure. So another type of discount would be an add-on. So like if you're doing a free gift with purchase or, any kind of bonus thing that you're throwing in the package before you ship it out, that's technically a discount you're offering because you're giving them more product than what they paid for. So if you decide to do that, make sure you factor in what the cost of that freebie is, or that extra item, whatever that is that you're throwing in. Or if you're doing like an add-on sale item, like, hey, you can, if you buy 4 mugs, going with Amanda's example, we'll give you free personalization, which is normally a $20 value or something like that. That's another way of adding on something. So I think
wrap is another one too. And
wrap, yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of makers who maybe might not sell a certain thing, but it's like I don't know, it's like a scrap leftover thing that they've made. It's like a tiny trinket that they make, and it's not maybe worth them selling it, but it's something they like, if you crochet, it's a tiny little thing you make and you're like, okay, there's a bunch of these little things that I can just like throw into something that helps. And I would say this is problem solving, as in like we kind of presented it as difficult customers, but I also think like you can reward customers that have been like really good too, like who've been extra patient, during a certain process, who've been very encouraging, who it's their repeat, and you're just like, I'm going to throw something in. And that it's maybe not problem solving in the way of like somebody was difficult, but it's like going back to that, habit. It's like conditioning someone like, you were really good to us. Like, we do want to say thank you for this. And if they're not expecting it, it's not really the same.
Yeah, it's like going back to your restaurant analogy. It's kind of the equivalent of, your food took 5 or 10 minutes longer than it normally does to cook, so we're going to give you a free dessert thing. It's kind of a problem solving in advance and a rewarding of good behavior. Like, oh, you've been a great, or I would say, to take it a step further, you brought in a party of 8 and you've ordered several bottles of wine and are having a good time, and everybody's had an appetizer and a salad and a main course. We're going to throw in dessert on the house because we appreciate your business. Something like that. Those are, I think, good examples there. Another thing, which I see you've been talking about in the chat as well, is free shipping. And including that as an incentive to purchase, because we know that more and more people are looking for that as the Amazon Prime culture persists, and people are more and more used to getting free shipping on items, especially if you make heavier items. That's definitely a discount that you can offer. And I think Amanda was really smart to include that shipping cost. I think somebody else mentioned it as well. Yeah, Lori did. Maybe, no, it's Jennifer, sorry. Amanda and Jennifer both said that they build the shipping cost into their item price so that they are not eating that cost. It is just cushioned, and it gives the customer the perception that they're getting free shipping. And so all you have to convince them is a single price, not a price plus shipping.
And I think it's so hard, right? Because like, I feel like there's this like very much resistance to like, I'm not Amazon, I can't do free shipping. But if you do bake it in, you can do free shipping. And most of those stores there are baking it in to their prices. And I would say it's very similar to like how there are some stores that are mom and pop that you'll go into that it's like minimum credit card, charge, it has to be $5 or $10 or something, or like, but a lot of stores that aren't mom and pop like that too, just bake in, they know that credit card transactions are part of their, cost of doing business. So that gets added into the price. And yes, is it a penalization at some level if you pay in cash? Sure. But like, that's just sort of like how expectations go. Once like something sort of reaches like a critical mass, like you kind of do have to respond. In some way, maybe. It doesn't necessarily mean that you offer free shipping on everything, or it's like, it could be like a flat fee for shipping. There's, you know, a lot of places that do that. But just consider, you know, if shipping seems to be the obstacle in your business, try to figure out how to make that not be the obstacle, even if it's just an optical illusion.
For sure. Another type of discount that I wanted to bring up that Lori mentioned that she does is just have a running discount based on the total order amount as a means of encouraging people to buy more. I think we've all encountered coupons like that where you save $10 if you spend 50, and if you spend 75, then you save 15, and you know, things like that. That kind of tiered discount promotion can help, especially if your products are priced in a way that benefits people. Like if your average price encourages people to spend more than the threshold to be able to get the discount, then that can be a good way to go too. And it's a great way to get that order quantities up and to encourage people to spend more. Okay. I want to dig into abandoned cart discounts because this is a hot topic. Lots of people have been talking about this in our Facebook group. So for those of you who aren't aware, Etsy recently rolled out the ability to offer an abandoned cart discount or coupon code to shoppers who put one of your items in their cart and then walk away from it. They don't actually complete the purchase. Abandoned cart discounts are not anything new. This is just a new thing to Etsy. And I would love to know, Sharon, what your thoughts are on this first.
Well, in regards to Etsy, part of my seeming problem with it is it's like a little bit vague on how these coupons are distributed and the reminders that people get and how saturated they are. And if you're right, because Etsy, Etsy might be, you know, telling them like they might have multiple items in their cart. So it might be that like they're getting emails from like 10 different shops at once. Like, I don't know what crazy maniac is like, I'm just going to leave everything in my cart, but maybe they are like that. So that's my hesitation with Etsy and those types of things. I think we talked about it in our group, and it was a lot of like, okay, let's experiment. Let's see what this happened. And I would say that for a lot of people, that experiment went bust, but there were some people that got responses to it. So I think that is one of those things that is going to be highly dependent shop to shop. And I think, you know, even if you're not on Etsy, I think when you're able to offer these kinds of innovative discounts, I guess, like very targeted ones like that, I don't think it's bad to experiment and see where it gets you and then say, okay, this is not my people, but then maybe you come back to it a couple years later and say, all right, I'll try it again. Maybe it's different this time. So I think run experiments, see what works, you know, don't fret about spending a ton of money on it. But yeah, I think it's a good thing to explore.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So like any new feature or new possibility that is introduced by a platform you're selling on, take it with a grain of salt, do a little experimentation, track some metrics, and see if it's actually beneficial for you. On the flip side of it, we keep talking about this, but you want to be sure you're not conditioning bad behavior. And I think abandoned cart discounts, and I am so guilty of doing this myself, abandoned cart discounts are conditioning people to expect them. And the perfect example is that I've been shopping for a piece of furniture. It is a significant investment. I found the one that I wanted. When I was ready to buy, I literally went in, put it in my cart, went to go to the checkout, entered my email address, and got as far as the credit card information and then closed the browser intentionally, hoping that in the next day or two, I would get an email from them saying, hey, we really want you to buy this. Here's 10% off. And it didn't happen, which I'm kind of glad because I was kicking myself. This happened at the exact same time that we started talking about this in the Facebook group with the Etsy discounts. And I kicked myself because I was like, man, I am so guilty of that. and I need to break that conditioned behavior, because even though it's a larger retailer that can absorb 10% discount, that's a bad habit to get into, I think. And I think for the sake of our businesses, as makers, as small business owners, I think it's a good thing to be very careful about how we use that.
I mean, I don't think it's that bad if you're and I think what you said, like a large piece of furniture, like that's a big decision for someone. Like if you have something that's a lot more expensive and you're offering abandoned cart coupons, I can see how that could push someone over the edge, right? Like, and if it's like 10%, like on something that's like a few $100s or even over $100, that doesn't seem to me like that's, you know, that's more just like people like, and then that kind of pushes them over. If they're struggling to like buy a $5 card from you, like, no, you know, that's the difference, right? Like, I think that's when we get back into like, who is your customer? Is this right for your shop? What kind of prices do you already have in there? And I think that is one of the things that's hard about the Etsy thing is like, you might have stuff that's like $10 stuff that people have just left in their cart. And you might have stuff that's like $150 stuff. And like, I think on the Etsy one, like you don't really get a pick and choose as much like what the discounts get applied to. So that I think is a hesitation. But if you have expensive things and like, you know, in your shop, like if you have like Shopify or another e-commerce platform, most of them, I believe, will give you better indication on like what's in these carts. So Etsy doesn't as much, but if that's the case, like, and I think with those, you can just like offer specific carts, you know, a discount, right? Like it's a little bit creepy that you're like, hey, Stephanie, I see that you have all of this stuff in there and I'm specifically giving this to you. But no, like, I think that's when you kind of have to do the strategy of it. But I get that, like, if you're a business and you're just constantly doing that at people and always offering them anytime anything is in their cart, then no.
Yeah. I think, so if I can do a side plug for our Jumpstart program, Sharon, I wanted to call out that in our pricing spreadsheet that we have as part of the Jumpstart program, we include an average discount or sale price or sale amounts that you can build into the pricing of your product to actually build in the absorption of a potential sale, even if it's not something you do very often. And so if you're doing that from the get-go, it can make the decision to do an abandoned cart discount or free shipping, for example, or regular sales. That will help you build enough of a buffer in your profit margin to be able to absorb that without leading you into worrying about whether or not that's actually costing you too much money to do. So it's kind of a non sequitur, but I wanted to bring that up.
Yep, definitely. And I think we talked about on another promo here. We talked about
plug it shamelessly. Come on.
Yeah. On State of Making 2. Was that with Amanda or was that with somebody else? Or was that with Lizzie and Steph?
That is such a blur. I don't remember.
But we did have, it was either on our Etsy alternatives or Etsy one. I believe we talked about the problems of free shipping and how this is becoming a customer expectation and sort of how to deal with it. So that's in there. That's a jewel in there as well too. So, and apparently Danielle and Amanda are definitely cart hoarders and keep lots of things in there and just come back to it when they need to. So yeah, I guess that's like how some people are like zero inbox people and some people are not. Have a million things in your cart, need to like get everything out of the cart sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's how it is. All right. So another discount is flash and unplanned sales. So running flash sales is sort of like a lot like you're going to do it really quickly. It's, if you're running like a sale at the holidays, a lot of times, you know, you give it like a week or you give it a few days and you kind of maybe like start with a certain amount and then like increase it and then decrease it, whatever. There's different strategies on that. But with a flash sale, it's kind of like 24 hours or 10 hours or whatever you're trying to give people. And it's usually like a, kind of can be like insidery, and it's like, you know, just for our audience kind of a situation, like you're kind of making it like a special get it now situation.
Yeah. I think oftentimes, you know, flash sales are very social media driven. So it's like, quick to our Twitter followers, act now and you can get X for, you know, 10% off or whatever it is, or you do it to your newsletter as a reward to them for subscribing, things like that. The other type of unplanned sale that I think is worth mentioning is kind of it's not necessarily a sale so much as it is a benefit thing. So, you know, a lot, especially in starting in November of 2016, a lot of people started supporting charities and political organizations by donating a percentage of their profits during a certain time period. So it's considered a sale because you are ultimately not keeping all of the money, but you are not giving it back to your customers, you're giving it to something else. So I know a friend of ours, Erwin, did a benefit sale for the Eagle Creek forest fire that happened outside of Portland last summer, where she was donating a portion of that to Restoration Fund. I know a number of people do stuff for Humane Society or for women's organizations or whatever it is. Those types of things are considered discounts because you are ultimately discounting the money you take home, and should also be done intentionally and with confidence instead of on the fly without thinking about how much it's actually going to cost you.
Yeah, it's kind of like a bonus ad discount. Like you're giving them something like a discount that you would like, you know, gift with purchase, and here the gift is money to the charity. So kind of think of it that way. It's, you know, it's a similar thing as you would do like a gift with purchase. If you're like, you know, 10% of everything I sell, you know, this week or whatever is gonna go to animal rescue or something.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I don't see any questions yet. If anybody does have questions, hit that question button and throw them in there. I was going to say part of the reason why State of Making is so blurry to me is because last week I also interviewed Amanda for the podcast for a future episode, and her and I what I can't remember about it is what I talked to her about on the podcast interview and what we talked about in the State of Making session, because she was on that. But I know that we talked a lot about pricing at some point during one of those, and specifically her decision to include free shipping and things like that. Yeah, Amanda, I hear you as well. The life has been a blur. But I hope that helps everybody. Basically, I think if we could sum up and go back to our very first point, which is discounts are something that you will probably offer at some point in your maker business if you haven't already. And it's okay. It's perfectly okay to offer a discount. The thing that we're going to encourage you to do always is to do so with intention, to have a good understanding about what a discount is costing your business and what it means for your profit margin. And to make sure that you are thinking strategically and experimenting appropriately. There's nothing wrong with exploring an Etsy abandoned cart discount. There's nothing wrong with exploring building in free shipping into your sale price. Just do so from a mindset of experimentation and try it out and see what happens, and then analyze and figure out if it's worth it for you, if it's benefiting you or not, and then move on to something else if it's not.
I think we should also add is that I think experiment on what your customers respond to in types of types of discounts, and then also see what those sort of like profits yield you. But also don't think that you have to like offer 75% off or 50% off or something. Like, you know, the percentage or the dollar amount off doesn't necessarily, like the biggest thing doesn't necessarily move the most people or get you the best results, you know, especially over a long haul. Like the discount could be like we kind of said it earlier, like certain dollar amount, you get a discount, certain at a certain quantity, you get a discount. After you buy a certain amount, you get certain flat free shipping or whatever. Like, don't think that you have to do everything as free and deep as possible. That just might not work for you.
Yeah. And also, I'm just remembering, I think I got that wrong about Arrowin. Arrowin does sell something that benefits some sort of fund or nonprofit. But the maker I was thinking about was Lindsay from Maple XO, who does recycled skateboard jewelry. She was doing a specific Eagle Creek benefit thing. Anyway, so if Arrowin watches this later and goes, what? That's what I was thinking of. Or maybe she did.
Like, what's going on with Isaac? Why is
Isaac's telling lies about me? What's going on?
Looking at our poll, we only have a few votes, and we have same amount of votes, 50% going for monthly discounts, and then 50% doing discounts only to clear out inventory, which is totally reasonable too. I know people who, you know, that we also talk about craft shows and how they can be not great for certain businesses, and they're a little too discounty for some people. And like, it's, you know, people don't sometimes want to spend a lot. If you've got stuff to clear out and you've got some nice discounts happening, that can also be a great place to go in. And I know a few makers who only do craft shows. Both of them are clothing, so I don't know what that is, but yeah, that's the only time they sell at shows is to get rid of a lot of inventory.
Mm-hmm. Lori mentioned earlier, speaking of craft shows, that she tends to sell her work for a lower price at craft shows in person than she does online. And that is something I know a lot of makers do, largely as a way to incentivize people to come shop in person, especially locals.
They'll say, you know, show special or whatever.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Anyway, there are tons of ways to discount your products, to offer sales, things, any kind of promotion like that, that'll encourage people to buy.
Yep, totally.
All right. I think that covers us for today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in for another episode of YHB TV, your Handmade Business Television, where we talk about maker life. I really like doing this. Hashtag. Maybe that meme is just too old now. I don't know. Anyway, next week, Sharon will not be with us. I'm firing her. No, I'm just
right. Yeah, I won't be with us.
Sharon's headed out on a road trip, so I will be back running solo, and I'm going to burn it all down on live TV.
If any of you guys have tips on places to visit between Los Angeles and Waco, Texas, let me know.
Yeah. Well, I will be here tuning in for a broadcast. We're going over all the ABCs of hiring help. This is something that I have literally just gone through for myself, and I have some thoughts on it, and I've been talking to lots of people about it as well. So if you've ever considered hiring help, tune in for that. Tell your friends, and we'll see you in our Facebook group.
Yes. I guess that's it.
Anything else to add? If you want to find out more about the Maker Mastermind, click
the Maker Mastermind. Click the Maker Mastermind button below. So, yeah, I guess I won't see you next week, but see you next week in a rhetorical fashion.
Bye, everyone.